Thank you, Chair. I can confirm the meeting is now live.
Great. Hello, everyone. Here's a call to order and land acknowledgement for the Heritage Advisory Committee for June 28th. So the Halifax Regional Municipality is located in Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral and territorial lands of the Mi'kmaq people. The municipality acknowledges the peace and friendship treaties signed in this territory and recognizes that we all are treaty people. Okay. So approval of minutes. Are there any errors or omissions? So I'll call for the motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
Thank you. And a seconder?
I'll second.
Thanks, David. And so I'll call for the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Those opposed? Motion carries. So for the approval of the order of business and approval of any additions and deletions, Simon, are there any addition or deletions?
Thank you, Chair. Through you to the committee, there are no requested additions or deletions received from the clerk's office.
Great. And are there any members who would like to move items?
So move the agenda as presented.
All right. And a seconder?
Yes, second.
Great. Okay. All those in favor?
Aye. Aye. Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. So there's no business arising out of the minutes. So I'll call for a declaration of conflict of interest. So are there any committee members that have identified any conflicts of interest that they'd like to declare? All right. There's no consideration of deferred business. Simon, has there been any correspondence that has been received by the clerk's office?
Thank you, Chair. There has been no correspondence received that has been circulated to members of the committee.
Okay. And is there any petitions that the committee would like to bring forward? And Simon, have you received any?
None received from the clerk's office either.
Okay, so moving on to the reports. First we have is 9.11 case 24359. So the development agreement for 2537-39 Agricola, Halifax for a 27.3 mixed use addition to a registered heritage property. And I'll ask Carter Bupro McPhee to make a presentation.
Certainly. Good afternoon to the chair and committee members. My name is Carter Beaupre McPhee, Planner 3 Heritage, and staff are pleased to present to you today case 24359, the application for a heritage development agreement at 2537-39 Agricola Street in Halifax. This is an application by Eco Green Homes on behalf of the property owner to enter into a heritage development agreement permitting an 8-story plus amenity penthouse or 27.3 meter mixed use addition to the registered heritage property known as Open Mike House. Here is a look at the site in question. As you can see, it encompasses both the Open Mike House property and the neighboring Carlo Autumn property. HAC previously reviewed a substantial alteration associated with this heritage DA, which was approved by Regional Council on February 6th of 2024 and included removal of the existing rear addition and removal of the rear portion or 46% of the building and construction of a 27.3 meter tall mixed use addition, replacement of the existing unsound brick and rubblestone foundation with a new poured concrete foundation based in reclaimed brick replacement of modified front door with a new front entry of materials and design appropriate to the building, and installation of a second-story side entrance, again with materials and design appropriate to the building. The Open Mic House was registered in 2020, and the heritage value of this property is embodied in the circa 1900 to 1905 Halifax box-style dwelling, with two-story bay window, bracketed cornices, plain frieze, corner boards, wood shingle cladding, and so on. It has housed a variety of working and middle-class rental tenants and owner-occupiers, and its culturally significant use since 2008 as a live music venue has earned it the name Open Mic House, and earned it recognition by local media and the provincial government for its cultural contributions. The DA proposal is as follows: the construction of a 27.3 meter mixed-use addition, residential and commercial, with the front half of the Open Mic House being retained, rehabilitated, and adaptively reused as commercial space, a piazza open space between the Heritage Building and the parking garage entrance to activate the street frontage, a second-story balcony which will repair the street wall and serve as an open-air dining and musical performance space, and a rooftop amenity and mechanical penthouse, as well as one level of underground parking accessible from Agricola Street with 10 vehicular spaces. Here we can see a rendering of the rehabilitated Heritage Building and the redesigned street wall, as well as a rendering of the rooftop amenity space. Here we have left side and rear elevations, sorry. And here we have right side and front elevations. And here is our site plan. The proposal is being considered under policy CHR7 of the Regional Centre Secondary Municipal Planning Strategy, which supports retention and rehabilitation of heritage buildings by allowing their owners to apply for a development agreement for development or use not otherwise permitted by the underlying zone, thus encouraging adaptive reuse of registered heritage properties. A complete policy review is provided in Attachment B. Heritage value will be maintained through rehabilitating the front 54% of the heritage building, including all its character-defining elements. In terms of impacts, the surrounding area contains a mixture of buildings with varying typologies ranging from single-family homes to multi-unit mid-rises. And Agricola Street features both residential and commercial uses, including restaurants, storefronts, and auto repair shops. This proposal is comparable in density with other existing and in-construction developments in the area, and its uses will be less disruptive than the existing non-conforming auto service use presently in that location. The new construction achieves compatibility with its surroundings through the repair of the historic street wall established by the Heritage Building across the full width of the site using a second-story balcony and pergola. The setback of the new addition is massing by 4.8 meters from the street wall established by the Heritage Building, excluding the parking garage entrance, and preservation of informal open space previously provided by a surface parking lot to be improved in the form of a piazza with landscaping, enhancing and activating the pedestrian realm. The proposal complies with wind and shadow impact, public view and terminus, and bonus zoning requirements where applicable, and there are no unregistered historic buildings on the subject site. Agricola Street is a mixed-use environment, primarily zoned corridor. Adjacent properties reach up to 7-story maximum development potential as of right, and nearby developments of a similar scale include the 7-story Robb building on Robert Street and the 7-story Maynard Suites building on Maynard Street to the rear of this property. Staff find this proposal is comparable in scale with surrounding development, and staff have evaluated the level of investment in the conservation of the heritage building to be commensurate with the additional development rights being awarded beyond as of right. Staff also find that this development fulfills Regional Centre SMPS objectives regarding accommodating future growth, retaining the character of the neighborhood, ensuring change is compatible and relates to this character, and so on. The development's design through the balcony and piazza enables its continued function as a culturally significant live music venue and outdoor gathering space, contributing to the vibrant character of Agricola Street. The new addition has been designed to minimally impact the heritage building by retaining all its character-defining elements and proposing a physical connection only at the rear of the building. The site offers access to nearby transit priority corridors, established pedestrian and active transportation, and the Halifax Common. Conservation of the heritage building will include, as mentioned, the retention of the front 54% of the heritage building, replacement of the existing failed foundation with a new foundation clad in reclaimed brick, the repair and, where necessary, replacement in kind of all character-defining elements, the replacement of existing vinyl windows with new wood frame windows, the replacement of the existing wood shingle cladding with new wood shingle cladding of an appropriate scale to the building, replacement of the modified front entrance with a new entrance appropriate in design and materials to the building, and other substantial and non-substantial alterations as outlined in the HRM Substantial Alterations Report, HRTG 2023-01146, which was reviewed by HAC and approved by Regional Council on February 6th of 2024. More analysis is provided in the policy review, again, attachment B, but staff finds that the proposed development satisfies standards 1 through 12 of the Standards and Guidelines for the Conservation of Historic Places in Canada, 2nd edition. All character-defining elements will be repaired wherever possible and replaced in kind wherever necessary. The culturally significant function of the heritage property as a live music venue and gathering space will also be retained. The new addition's massing is set back behind the heritage building, enhancing the heritage building's prominence and preserving the open space of the piazza. The addition's simplified design and neutral cladding will reduce its visual impact and subordinate the addition to the heritage building. The ground and second stories of the new addition employ brick complementary to the reclaimed brick facing of the heritage building's new foundation, and also take cues from the cornice lines of the heritage building in the balcony and pergola design, enhancing compatibility with the heritage resource. Lastly, the addition's modern design ensures it remains differentiated. The design and materiality choices enabling subordination to and compatibility with the heritage building also fulfill policy CH16 of the regional plan. A summary of public feedback is provided in attachment C. 6 responses were received. Feedback was predominantly supportive or supportive with qualifying concerns. Concerns were primarily regarding the provision of sufficient parking and the proposed height of the development. The required level of parking under Regional Center Land Use Bylaw for this development in this zone would be 0 vehicular spaces, but the proposal instead provides 10 underground vehicular spaces, 2 of them accessible. The Land Use Bylaw would also require 15 bicycle parking spaces, and the proposal provides 18 underground bicycle parking spaces. As mentioned previously, staff find the scale of this development comparable with existing and proposed developments in the surrounding area and with adjacent zoning and height limits, and commensurate with the investment in the conservation of the heritage building. In conclusion, staff have reviewed the proposal and find it reasonably consistent with the intent of applicable policies. The proposed development represents infill mixed-use development in a designated corridor that will be supportive of and compatible with the heritage character of the subject site and the surrounding neighborhood. The level of conservation effort proposed for the open mic house is proportionate to the increased density being proposed. Thus, staff recommend that HAC recommend that Halifax and West Community Council approve the proposed development agreement. Currently, the application is at the HAC recommendation stage, and if HAC recommends in favor, it will proceed to first reading at Halifax and West Community Council and then to a public hearing. Finally, staff have identified a requirement in section 3.5.5 of the proposed development agreement, attachment A, which should, for clarity, defer to the requirements of the underlying land use bylaw. Staff therefore recommend that the Heritage Advisory Committee recommend an amendment to the proposed development agreement as follows. That is the addition to the second sentence of clause 3.5.5 of any elevator enclosure shall be subject to the requirements of the Regional Center Land Use Bylaw as amended from time to time, and the deletion of no mechanical penthouse shall exceed 4.5 meters in height. The amended recommendation is before you now. Thank you.
Thank you for that. So I guess we'll bring this to the floor. Do we have a mover
I can move.
and a seconder?
I'll second it.
Yep. So
Okay,
we'll
Brad.
just ask Jason to read the recommendation from the agenda first.
Could you, I have the shared screen in front of me. Is there a way to,
Oh, sorry about that.
I can see about putting that in the chat, possibly.
yeah, that'd be great.
There we are. I'll also note I have worked with staff regarding the proposed amendment and have also put that in the chat. That's also available there. I believe for process purposes, the best way to proceed would be to read the staff recommendation first and then make the amendment after that.
Okay, so that's so in kind of the 1, 2, 3 first, and then the one that's above it in the chat. Okay. So move that the Heritage Advisory Committee, that we recommend that Halifax and West Community Council 1 give notice of the motion to consider the proposed development agreement as set out in attachment A of the staff report dated May 3rd, 2024 to enable the construction of a 27.3 meter mixed use addition to the registered heritage property located at 2539 Agricola Street and schedule a public hearing. 2, approve the proposed development agreement, which shall be substantially of the same form as set out in attachment A of the staff report dated May 3rd, 2024. And 3, require the agreement be signed by the property owner within 120 days or any extension thereof granted by council on request of the property owner from the date of final approval by council and any other bodies as necessary, including applicable appeal periods, whichever is later. Otherwise, this appeal shall be void and the obligations arising hereunder shall be at an end, along with the proposed amendment. Should we do that separately, Simon?
Yeah,
or-
we should do that separately.
Okay.
We'll just no
Okay,
trouble.
I'm stopping talking now then.
And I believe, if I heard correctly, was that Brian who seconded that motion?
Yes, it was.
Okay. Yep. So we'll just confirm that.
Okay, so we have
That
a
is on the floor for discussion.
Okay, so we have a proposed amendment. Any thoughts on that?
Just a question on the limitation on the mechanical stuff. How would that, with the building plans, what's projected on their projected building plans? How high would this mechanical room would have been? Is it exceeding the area by very much or a slight variance?
I can certainly answer that through the chair to the councillor. Essentially, the requirement for mechanical penthouse in the underlying land use bylaw is less restrictive than what is currently written in the Heritage Development Agreement, and there is a slight possibility that in the actual process of constructing the tower, that the mechanical specifically for the elevator shaft and for the mechanics associated would potentially exceed the 4.5 set out in clause 3.5.5. And so just to eliminate the possibility of requiring a substantive amendment to the DA for that purpose, it was felt reasonable that we should instead amend the motion to in turn amend the development agreement to default back to what is typically required in the underlying land use bylaw.
So does this make it less restrictive or more flexible for them?
It makes it slightly more flexible for them, but only in the sense that it defaults back to what would ordinarily be allowed.
Okay. Well, I drove by the site the other day and saw the old stone brick garage in the back and stuff, and I think this would be a vast improvement of what's there, especially with the density being encouraged in the area. I think it's a great proposal being put forth.
You, David, and I agree. So is there any more comments on the proposed amendment?
So we would just need to read that amendment to put it on the floor. We can have further discussion then, and at that point call the question if folks are are following along.
So do you want me to move the amendment then, Simon?
Yep, sure. If you
Okay.
feel comfortable with that, yeah.
Well, I've got the talk and momentum, so let's keep going. Move the proposed amendment, which is that part one of the motion be amended to add, quote, with amendments to the second sentence of section 3.5.5 of the proposed development agreement to read, quote, furthermore, any elevator enclosure shall be subject to the requirements of the regional center land use bylaw as amended from time to time.
Second.
Great. And any more comments before we put that to a vote? All right. So all in favor of the proposed amendment? Aye.
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 Any opposed? The motion carries. So on to the motion as amended. Do we need to read that?
Nope, that is fine. We can call the question if there is no more discussion or debate on the main motion. We can call the question on that at any time, but if members would like to discuss it more, also up to them.
Would anyone like to discuss the motion? Right, so let's put that to a vote.
Call for the question.
Oh, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Those opposed?
Opposed.
Motion carries. And if I can hand the chair back to Brian.
I'll try you to continue. It's my fault. My day got ahead away from me. You're doing great.
I think where if our chair is present, I think it would probably be best at this point just to switch over formally.
Okay.
Just if you're comfortable with that, Brian.
Sure, no problem. Yeah.
Great, thanks.
So, judging from the emails we've had, the personnel matter with requiring us to go into camera is no longer before us for this meeting. If I'm not mistaken.
That's correct, Chair.
Yeah. So the next item that we can eliminate. So that brings us really to the date of next meeting.
Chair, I believe there are two other items, 9.12 and 9.1.3. Those were, I believe, previously going to be considered as added items, but we have those in time for the special meeting. We're able to.
Okay, I didn't have that on the last one I printed out didn't have that in it. Sorry. Okay, so I don't have that in front of me right now because I have an older version of the agenda. I just dug up.
Oh, yeah. Why don't I just forward you that just quickly? If our vice chair doesn't mind, again, just maybe keeping us going, if that's all right for these next items.
All right, to keep us on track.
Yeah, thanks, Tyler.
Thank you. So next on the agenda is 9.1.2 800-581, and that is for the 2024-2025 financial incentives program for Smithville and Old South Suburb Heritage Conservation Districts. And I'm going to ask Gon Shokui.
It's Shao Qiu Gong.
Pardon?
Mr. Chair, it's Shao Qiu Gong.
Shou Qiu Gong?
Yep.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and committee member. Oh, sorry, I should share my screen first. And my name is Xiaojiu Gong. I'm Planner 1, and today I will present you the case H00581 2024-2025 Financial Institute Programs for Shippingville and Old South Suburb Heritage Conservation District. So the Financial Institute Program or the FIP program specifically targets the conservation of contributing heritage resource and the revitalization of all existing buildings located in the two heritage conservation districts we mentioned. The program guidelines and the budget were approved by the regional council on March 23, 2021 through Administration Order 2020-005 ADM, which includes the rules and operation guidelines for this program. This program provides two types of grants: conservation grants and functional improvement grants. Conservation grants are very like our annual Heritage Institute program, providing financial support to the projects that preserve, rehabilitate, and restore the character-defining elements on the exterior of contributing heritage resource. This grant will cover 50% of the cost of eligible work, tax exclusive. Every eligible property can receive a maximum of 2 grants and $50,000 during the 5 years program term. Functional improvement grants, on the other hand, provides financial support to the project that improves the overall quality for the existing building, including the projects such as improvement of accessibility and electrical structural system or the necessary improvement to meet the current building code. This grant will cover 15% of the cost of eligible works, tax inclusive. Every eligible properties can receive a maximum of 2 grants and maximum $800,000 during the 5 years program term. As for the program's progress, applications are accepted between January 1st and March 1st annually. In the program period, Heritage staff ensure that proposed work in the application meets the eligibility criteria. Then the staff will score and rank all applications to prioritize them. But in this year's program, it's not useful as the total request grant amount do not exceed the budget. And this is the scoring system. We would not use this time. So the 2024-2025 AFP program has received 6 in-time applications. The cumulative value of the eligible request is around $300,000, which will result in around 1.4 million total investment in these properties. There is also a late application from the Elmwood building, which requests a $200,000 grant and will result in around 1.5 million total investment in the property. In the following slides, I will brief the basic information of all applications, including the late application. So our first application is from 5172 Morris Street. The proposed project is to repair and paint the exterior sidings and trims, and to repair the roof and the dormer. The staff recommends a conservation grant of $18,000. The second application is from 5184 Morris Street. The proposed project is to repair and paint the exterior siding and trims. The staff recommends a conservation grant of $4,925. The third application is from 5178 Morris Street. The proposed project is to repair and paint the exterior siding and trims. The staff recommends a conservation grant of $4,400. The fourth application is from 1351 to 1353 Birmingham Street. The proposed project includes replacing 3 windows on the main level, painting the shingles, repairing and replacing the trims and and replacing the front steps and railings, and replacing front doors, sidelights, and transom. The staff recommends a compensation grant of $32,770.25. The fifth application is from 1234 Barrington Street. The proposed project is to repair the top floor dormer, repair the chimney, and replace 9 windows. Staff recommends a conservation grant of $28,580.20. The sixth application is from 1253 Barrington Street. The proposed work is to conduct an interior and exterior renovation, which has received the building permits. The exterior work includes exterior mansion repairing, window replacement, stair repairing. Innovation projects include the improvement of plumbing system, electrical, HVAC system. According to the program AO, the staff would recommend a $50,000 conservation grants and a function improvement grants of $158,000 and $11.44. As mentioned earlier, we received a late application from 5189 South Street, the Elmwood building. The proposed work is to restore the Elmwood apartment building. The applicant applied for a conservation grant for the roof project and exterior painting, and a function improvement grant for the insulation, electrical, plumbing, and sparkler system. The recommended conservation grant is $50,000, and the recommended function improvement grant is $150,000. And as for the rationale for the late application, Elmwood apartment is an example for the stick style architecture, and one of few large scale Victorian residential building in HRM, and because of the availability of our operation budget, staff recommends the committee consider awarding them one-time grants to according to Section 22 of the Heritage Property Act, which states that the council may provide financial assistance in respect of municipal heritage property or property located in the Heritage Conservation District to any person to assist in the restoration or renovation of such property upon such terms and conditions as the minister or the council, as the case may be, deems fit. 2024-2025 FIP program operating budget is $500,000, which comes from the cost center C340 Cultural Heritage and Planning Information Service. The budget can cover all in-time applications and the later applications. Therefore, the staff recommended the Heritage Advisory Committee recommends the Regional Council first approve all in-time application listed in Attachment A, and second approve one-time conservation grant and one-time functional improvement grant for 5185, 5189 South Street, conditional on the compliance with the FIP program AO. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Mr. Gong. So I'll call for the motion to bring this to the floor to discuss.
We rarely spend all that fund, so it's nice to see it's being used. I can make the motion if you want.
Yes, please.
Okay, sure, Tice. It is recommended that the Heritage Advisory Committee recommend approve the proposed grant applications 25-001 to 25-006 listed in attachment A. Conditional upon the applicant's compliance with section 7 and 36 to 39 of Administrative Order number 2020-005-ADM and the requirements specified in attachment A being satisfied. And 2, approve a one-time conservation grant of up to $50,000 on a 50% cost-sharing basis for exterior conservation work, and a one-time functional improvement grant of up to $150,000 on a 15% cost-sharing basis for functional improvements to the building at 5185-5189 South Street in Halifax. Application 25-007 for work described in attachment A, subject to the same conditions for the conservation grant and functional improvement grant, and conditional upon the applicant's compliance with section 7, 16-25, and 36-39 of Administrative Order 2020-005-ADM to be drawn from Cost Center C340 for the 2024-2025 Fiscal Initiatives Program for Smithville and the Old South Suburb Heritage Conservation Districts.
And a seconder, please.
I'll second that, and it's a great use of money.
Mhm.
Great, so open us up to some discussion.
They're all good projects.
Yeah, so good use of those funds.
Mhm.
So is there any more comments or questions? So I'll
Call for the question.
call the question. So all those in favor? Aye.
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 Those opposed? Motion carries. All right, on to the 9.1.3. Bear with me for one moment. So case HRTG 2024-00259, the substantial alteration to a municipally registered heritage property within the Carlton Street streetscape, Halifax. And we're going to receive presentation from Seamus McGreal.
Thanks very much, Mr. Vice Chair. Seamus McGrail, Principal Planner at the HRM Heritage Property Program with Planning and Development. And I'm here to present a case for substantial alteration for the Carlton Street streetscape. This is an application by ZAP Consulting. They're the applicants representing the property owner. The location is Carlton streetscape in Halifax. Municipal registered heritage property composed of 17 registered heritage properties constructed between 1860 and 1906. The proposal is for a substantial alteration to physically relocate a building from 1377 Roby Street to a vacant site at the corner of College and Carlton Street. The proposed substantial alteration is essential to support a future planning application for the construction of 2 towers on the southern portion of the block. And I'll just show some visuals here. So this is the block in question. You have Spring Garden Road here, Carlton Street, if you can see my cursor, Mr. Vice Chair, and College Street here, and Roby Street here. And the application is to move this building. It's currently not a registered historic building. It's not registered, but it's a 19th century building. to protect it, to preserve it, and to physically move it from its site to the corner of College and Carleton Street over here for the purpose of preserving it. So here is just a cast of characters, if you will, just to help better understand what's going on with this proposal. So the property owner owns the entire southern portion of this block, bounded in yellow here. And the overall plan is to construct 2 towers on this property here, and to safeguard the registered heritage properties along the Carleton Street streetscape, including the Crosskill building, the Gold Cure Institute. Those are both registered heritage properties. And there's also an initiative to preserve the McCoy building. This is not a registered heritage building, but it is going to be preserved as part of the overall plan. And now the substantial these buildings will be demolished, these 3 here that are not named. And the substantial alteration before you today is to move this building, the Mary Belcher building, from this location to the location identified here with the asterisk. The reason I identified this with an asterisk, this is the Mary Ann Noble building. It was a registered heritage building. Unfortunately, while there were plans in place to move this building and place it onto a new foundation, the building was dropped by the crane that was lifting it, and dropping the building caused such significant damage that the building was ultimately removed. It is a registered heritage property. It was removed, and essentially it's no longer standing. Through negotiations with the property owner, it was agreed that in lieu of preserving the Mary Ann Noble building, that the Mary Belcher building would be originally planned to be demolished. However, the plan is now to reinstate the streetscape by moving the Mary Belcher building to the location of the former Mary Ann Noble building. Also, much of the siding and character defining elements of the Crosskill building was removed as part of the initial development of the site. And as part of the substantial alteration, there is a requirement to reinstate all of the character defining elements on the Crosskill building as well. So just some of you who are new to the committee may just want to familiarize you with some terms under the Heritage Property Act. Substantial alteration. A substantial alteration means any action that affects or alters the character defining elements of a property. And the character defining elements mean materials, forms, location, spatial configurations, uses, and cultural associations or meanings that contribute to the heritage value, and that must be sustained in order to preserve heritage value. So since there is a plan, a proposal to move a new building into an existing streetscape, it's considered a substantial alteration. Just touching on the heritage value of the Carleton Street streetscape. It's our only streetscape in Halifax that has registered heritage buildings along both sides of one street. Most of our heritage streetscapes are only along one side of the street. However, this section of Carleton Street has heritage buildings on both sides. It's a rare example of an intact Victorian era street consisting of 17 large and lavish homes. It was originally part of the South Commons, and houses began to be built here between 1860 and continued until 1906. There's a strong sense of unity and scale with styles such as Greek Revival, Modified Gothic, Second Empire. However, there's also a lot of variety within the sense of unity, with different pitched roofs, different types of roof lines, placements of doorways and windowsills as well. So there's a sense of unity with a nice sense of variety as well. So There was an initial substantial alteration accompanied by development agreement that was adopted in 2019, January 2019. And the proposal was to move the Gold Cure Institute building, which is a registered heritage property. So to lift it from its existing foundation and to move it to this location here. The McCoy building was also moved along, was planned to be moved along with the Gold Cure Institute into a sort of a large corner lot. There were plans to remove an addition to the Mary Ann Noble building. So this is the building that was lost. There were plans through approval to remove its rear addition and to construct glass stairwells in between the buildings, as you see here. That was another substantial alteration that was approved back in 2019. Removal of an addition, a more modern addition to the Gold Cure Institute was also approved, and moving the McCoy building onto a foundation within the rear yard of the Mary Ann Noble building. So this building was that was part of the substantial alteration approval as well. So all of the approvals from 2019 continue to apply to this project. They continue to bind the property owner to the conditions and the heritage impact statement that accompanied the report at that time, except for the approvals obviously pertaining to the Mary Ann Noble building, the preservation of the Mary Ann Noble building, because it was ultimately lost to and removed from the site. So this substantial alteration is before you today seeks to restore the Carleton Street streetscape by relocating the Mary Belcher building to the corner of College and Carleton Street to replace the lost Mary Ann Noble building. So here you see the side elevation of the Mary Belcher building. This is an elevation drawing showing what it will look like once it's relocated to the corner lot. And this is the front elevation here. I'm not sure if you can see my cursor, Mr. Vice Chair, but the image on the bottom shows the on the left shows the Mary Belcher building next to the Crosskill building once it's moved to its new location.
Yes, we can see.
Okay, thank you. So just to provide a bit of historical context of the Mary Belcher building. So this building was built in 1896. See my notes here. It was built along College Street in tandem with neighboring properties on the block during a period of urban expansion and residential growth in Halifax in the late 19th century. So it accompanied the same kind of expansion and growth as the Carleton Street buildings. The house was originally owned by Mary Belcher, widow and mother of Edith Josephine McCoy, who resided in the McCoy building. So there's a strong association between the Mary Belcher building and the McCoy building that we've seen earlier. She resided there with her husband, Wensley McCoy, a prominent lawyer. So following Mary Belcher's passing in 1918, the whole McCoy family moved from the McCoy building into the Mary Belcher building, and they resided there until 1926. So there's a strong cultural association between the McCoy building and the Mary Belcher building here. In terms of the architectural assessment of the Mary Belcher building, it's in the Queen Anne style, characterized by asymmetric front facade, expansive porches and dormers. It has less elaborate features than the nearby Gold Cure Institute and even the McCoy building, which are also examples of the Queen Anne style. So it's the same style as the Gold Cure Institute and the McKay building, but less elaborate. Some notable character-defining elements of the Mary Belcher building include the two-story wraparound porch spanning the north half of the building, double bay windows on the front and south side, a hip roof, and front dormers as well. So in terms of evaluation under our heritage conservation standards, staff did a thorough evaluation of this proposal. The Mary Ann Noble building was a significant part of the Carleton's. So the building that was lost, the Mary Ann Noble building, was a significant part of the Carleton Street streetscape. Its location on a corner lot at the southern extremity of the heritage streetscape was a character-defining element. One principle of the standards is to not move a part of a historic place if its current location is character-defining. Unfortunately, the loss of this heritage building has had a negative impact on the heritage value of the streetscape. Although it's not possible to repair the lost heritage building, there is an opportunity to complete the heritage streetscape by replacing the heritage building at this location with another historic building, which is the Mary Belcher building. Where character-defining elements are too severely deteriorated to repair, a pertinent rehabilitation standard seeks to make the form, material, and detailing of a new element compatible with the character of the historic place. Adding the Mary Belcher building at the southern extent of the heritage streetscape rehabilitates a character-defining element of the heritage streetscape. Its form, material, and detailing are compatible with the character of the heritage streetscape. So another principle of the standards is to conserve heritage value by adopting an approach calling for minimal intervention. The loss of the Mary Ann Noble building was an unfortunate circumstance and certainly not considered an approach calling for minimal intervention. Picking up and moving the Mary Belcher building and adding a historic building to a heritage streetscape is a major project, but it is the necessary measure to replace a character-defining element of the heritage streetscape. Every measure should be taken to ensure that the Mary Belcher building is not damaged or lost during its journey to its new location. The standards seek to recognize each historic place as a physical record of its time and maintain a principle to not create a false sense of historical development by adding elements from other historic places or other properties. The Mary Belcher building, as we've learned, is an element from another property. However, its introduction to the heritage streetscape will not necessarily create a false sense of historic development because it shares historical context and architectural styles and features with other buildings within the streetscape. It has also stood on the opposite side of the same block of the heritage streetscape for over a century. And every measure should be taken within the new development agreement to ensure the public understanding of the Mary Belcher building was moved from its current location to the heritage streetscape. And finally, significant character-defining elements of the Crosskill building, as mentioned, were removed, including the shingle cladding, cornice, windows, and front porch. A principle of the standards indicate that intact or repairable character-defining elements should not be removed, replaced, or substantially altered. The Crosskill building must be completely restored to its original condition in accordance with the approved substantial alterations from 2019. Every measure should be taken within the new development agreement to identify intact or repairable exterior architectural features of the Mary Belcher building and to ensure that these architectural features are not lost or replaced unnecessarily before or after it is moved to its new location. So here we are in the process. There was an application that was received, an evaluation and staff report were drafted, and now it is before HAC for consideration, and it will go to Regional Council for approval of the substantial alteration. The recommendation from staff is before you, and you can see that the recommendation is in favor of this approach. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, Mr. Vice Chair, and Mr. Chair.
Thank you for that presentation. So, do we have a motion to move this on the floor?
Who has the motion right in front of them? I don't know. Go for it, Jason.
Oh, yeah, now I have to read it and I don't have it in front of me either. Oh, thank you, Simon, again. Okay, so I move that the Heritage Advisory Committee recommend that Regional Council approve the proposed substantial alteration to the municipal heritage property at 1452 to 1456 Carlton Street within the Carlton Street streetscape as set out in the staff report dated June 4th, 2024.
I'll second that.
Great. And do we have any comments, questions?
Well, I was really disappointed when we lost the first house there with the shifting and moving, and that was a tragic loss. But the relocation of this building to compensate for that, I think it's I guess the best of a bad situation. But some people may think, but I think it's a good compromise to have it relocated. I know some historians on our committee would say no, heritage remains the site it is, but I've always advocated if you always want to preserve a building, location is one of those things you may have to reevaluate. We lost the Irving gas station we used to have there in Sackville across from the Citadel Hill. It could have been relocated to the corner of the Garrison grounds for a power station house for a lot of events. We saw the Morris House get moved and relocated and a few other places. So I think this is a good compromise, and I think it's a good move to at least preserve the what's left of that house and complete the landscape or that streetscape for its significance. So I'm in support of this.
Yeah, I raised my hand.
David?
That's Asuka. Yes, I'm wondering, given what happened the first time Mary Ann building was being moved, what is the guarantee that in moving this there won't be any accident or eventuality? And what is the rate? Is it possible to give us a percentage of certainty that when moving buildings like this, it can be moved effectively and seamlessly without any occurrence or any eventuality? Is there a kind of percentage of assurance of that?
Thank you for the question. Through the member to the vice chair. There is such provisions mentioned in the staff report for this substantial alteration that mention that every measure should be taken to ensure that the building is moved and it moves safely throughout its journey from one end of the block to the other. A new development agreement will be drafted to enable this project to take place. So this substantial alteration, if it's approved, it will enable a new development to be drafted. In the language of the new development agreement, staff will ensure that there are provisions that there are structural engineering oversights of the move of the new building. So the method used to move the Mary Ann Noble building was essentially to pick it up with a crane and to swing it onto a new foundation. That method is obviously not the right one. So there are opportunities in the new development agreement to insist on a safer method, such as the one used for the Elmwood, where it was slid. So there are methods that we will put in place in the new development agreement to ensure that the building is moved without being damaged.
I think there's always a risk, and that's a fact we have to accept. These buildings are quite old, excellent, well built, excellent timber, but things happen.
David?
Hi, everybody. Good evening. My concern isn't about the location, because I understand that it's just around the corner. My concern is dropping a building. So I think we haven't talked about that enough. I'm quite worried about that happening again, because I don't think we have a good precedent set. And to that point, if you keep dropping buildings, you're going to run out of buildings to replace them with. So I'm a little worried about that becoming an option for developers that if you just happen to drop a building and you can tear it down, you can move something from somewhere else. I'm wondering, so I have a question to Seamus, if it was considered to completely rebuild the Noble building that was destroyed, as opposed to having something moved in its place. That's something that I'm thinking about. Thank you very much.
Thank you to the member, David, through the vice chair. That was considered as an option. It's reconstruction is not consistent with the conservation standards that HRM has adopted, which are the national standards for the conservation of historic buildings in Canada. So once a building is demolished, reconstruction, unless it's a detailed restoration project, such as the St. George's Round Church, for example, unless it's has incredible detailed blueprints and it's a restoration project involving historic architects. If it's just a reconstruction without that level of detail, it's not recommended under our conservation standards. So we allow the demolished building to remain demolished, and this is seen as the next best thing, which is protecting another existing building and moving it, which isn't entirely out of context with the site. I understand the concern about moving buildings around willy-nilly, but this building has stood on the opposite side of the block almost as long within that same period of 1816 to 1906. So there's context there. There's context in the historic association with the McKay building as well. So the story is still there. So we deem this to be an acceptable compromise to as the councillor mentioned, not the greatest situation.
Thank you very much.
Is there any other comments, questions, concerns that people would like to raise? Being no more comments, I guess I'll call for the question. All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
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 Those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Seamus. Okay, so up next, so 9.2 committee member updates. There are none. Any added items? I believe so. And
Motion for adjournment.
just one moment there. Simon, I do see
Item 11 there, that has been removed. I apologize. That's an earlier version of an annotated agenda there.
Oh, great.
Yep.
So the date of next meeting is July 24th, 2024. Do we have a, oh, sorry. So I guess yes. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Yes, sir.
Great. Thank you, everyone.
Have a good long weekend, everyone.
Yep.
Happy Canada Day.
Have a great
Thanks,
week.
Tyler.
Thank you. Happy Canada Day.
Thanks,
Thank you all.
everybody.
Glad your dog could make it, David.